Hi everyone, welcome. I apologize, I'm running a few minutes late. We are going to be talking about asthma today. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Just give me 1 second to make sure we're set up and we're good to go. Yeah, looks like we're good. All right, excellent. Again, my apologies if you've been waiting for the TV channel to start. Just one of those days where I was running a few minutes late. So thank you for being patient. So as you know, today is the second episode of Dr. Divi TV. We'll be together for a little bit here, and we're going to talk about asthma today. If you're tuning in for the first time, just a reminder how I do this. I first talk about kind of the medical aspect of something, in this case asthma, and then I'll talk a little bit about the mind, body, emotional aspect, possibly do an affirmation, possibly do a meditation, depending on how it feels. If you're watching live, you can type in questions, and I've got my other computer sitting here to keep an eye on the questions or comments you type in. So let's first define asthma, and then we'll talk about the medical diagnosis and treatment of it. So asthma in the medical model is thought to be our airways are more constricted, or what we call obstructed. So normally, if you think about it, in the human respiratory system, it literally is just a bunch of tubes. So airways are tubes that go from our mouth down and our nose down, go to the back of the mouth, and then into back here, back to the throat. Then it goes down, and then it splits off into the two big airway pieces that give air to our lungs. So that's the English words. The other words are like trachea, bronchi, bronchioles. Maybe you know those words. But literally, it is a series of tubes. With asthma, what is thought to be happening is the airway is constricting. Now, some people think the airway just constricts because it constricts. In the medical model, for sure, we think certain allergens or allergies will constrict them. For example, dust, perfumes, certain cleaners, they are definitely studied and well proven to be constrictors of those airways for some people. I've always questioned why it is that Jack, Jill, and John have asthma, and Joe, Jane, and Nicole don't have asthma. I've always questioned that. And what some of the studies show is that with asthma, some of the people who have it tend to be more emotionally sensitive and thereby possibly also sensitive to these products and just sensitive more in nature. So again, going to the medical model before we jump to the emotional metaphysical model. In the medical model, we use a number of products or treatments to help asthma. I'm going to talk about the common ones. There are newer ones like medications and newer stuff, but I'll talk about kind of the basics. For asthma, typically, there's of course allergy avoidance and stress reduction, which we will talk about. And the bigger things are, in terms of prescriptions, are basically two sets of puffers. One which are considered like a blue or gray color is Ventolin. That's a medication that just opens your airways from usually about 4 to 6 hours. And then the second line of puffers are more steroid puffers, and what they do theoretically is keep the airways open. And they're used more on a regular long-term basis, usually once or twice a day, to stabilize the airway capacity. So that's the kind of the medical approach. Now there are newer things that have been out for about 5 or 10 years, like medications, pills and different things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time there because I could spend the whole talk on that. But that's basically the treatment from a medical model in asthma. That for a short term or more likely a longer time, you're going to need these medications. Now definitely, possibly you, there are a lot of people who are just on the medications for seasonal times. So spring and fall, or when they're doing a lot of house cleaning, those can definitely trigger their asthma at certain times. But obviously, if you've tuned into my channel, you're kind of more curious about the emotional metaphysical. So let's jump in there and we'll leave the medical model aside. One thing that I always say is that when people are watching my channel, it's not to replace your doctor's advice. It's just to open other doors that you want to do in adjunct to what you're already doing. And maybe if you start some of this other work, maybe in a year or 5 years or 10 years or even a month, you may need less of the puffers or less of the medications, and that may happen. So in a lot of the metaphysical studies on asthma, it's typically thought that your lungs are holding on to grief. And the mind goes, how can it do that? Just watch this. Think of me being sad. I'm going to show you my profile for a second. I'm sad. I don't feel, I'm holding on to old sadness, old grief, and just watch what's happening to my spine. I maybe even don't think I'm good enough, or I can't live my life. Do you see how each of these statements, my spine is even constricting? And if you look at me from the front, you can see that my airway is more, even when I talk, it's like I can barely talk because everything's collapsed. But if I open up and stand up and let a lot of those emotions go, then what's possible? There's a lot of studies in yoga literature, that a lot of the deep breathing techniques and a lot of the postures you do in yoga is excellent for asthma because physically, you're opening your chest. Perhaps you're relaxing on a bolster and doing a physical opening of your chest or other type of posturing to open it up. So the lungs, are mobile. They're not one-way fixed, but they can open, they can release, they can change. I have a client that I've been recently working with asthma, and he's on certain puffers, and we've been working on the concept of this to this, and the concept for him in one area of his life is the freedom to do something. So one of the doors that I opened up to him in a one-to-one session with him was the freedom to explore an interest he's always had, which in his case was traveling, that he hasn't done in a long time on his own, wanted to check out. So he got the gumption after opening the door for him to book a trip. So he booked the trip, and just between the time that the idea came in and then he got the gumption to book the trip to the trip happening, his airway capacity opened about 80%. Like, that is crazy, according to like actual medical testing that you do on your breathing capacity. And one of the things that happens when your lungs collapse, like I said, one of them is grief that you're holding on to. Another thing can be not living your life or not feeling like you can have your own dreams or aspirations, or possibly even you being hard on yourself, that there's something wrong with you or I'm screwed up or something like that. So in a minute, we're going to do a meditation to see if we can open this part of you up simply by a few words and breath, and we'll see how it goes. And then we'll do a wrap up in a few minutes. So close your eyes and just begin to breathe in and out so that you're inhaling and exhaling. Belly rises and belly falls. Take slow breaths in and deep breaths out. Taking an inhale, followed by an exhale. Just let your body be still right now. Allow yourself to become perfectly comfortable in the chair you're sitting in. What would it feel like right now if you allowed yourself to take a full deep breath in and a long deep breath out? Inhale and exhale. Belly rises and belly falls. Deep breath in, slow breath out. Inhale and exhale. Let your body be still and let your body relax deeper and deeper into the chair. Just let yourself be still for this minute. Breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out. I'm going to make a few statements. I'm going to see if you can let your body breathe them in and out. Slow breath in, long breath out. Deep breath in, slow breath out. Inhale and exhale. Let your body relax, center, and be calm. I'm going to invite a few statements into this picture, and so I want to see how you feel as you take them in. I am allowed to be me. Take that statement in and see how your breath goes. I am allowed to be me. I am allowed to be me. Deep, slow breaths. I am allowed to have my own feelings. I am allowed to have my own feelings. I am allowed to express myself. Remember the deep, slow breaths as you do this. In and out. Breathing that low, slow flow of breath through your belly, through your chest, through your body. In and out, low and slow. I am free to open my chest. I am free to speak my mind. I am free to do what I wish to do. So take these statements in deeply and slowly and see how you feel. How does your breath move? How does your mind take it in? And how do you settle into it? Breathe deep and slow, long and easy, fluid and relaxed. I am allowed to be me. I am allowed to be free. Take those words into the bigness of your lungs and see how it feels. Take about 5 or 10 more deep breaths. In and out through your nose. Relaxed and easy, slow and long. And see how you feel. Now, gently start to bring your awareness back to your fingers and your toes. This is a short meditation, on purpose, short meditation. Start to bring your awareness to your fingers and your toes, slowly. And when you're ready, and the music is quieted, gently open your eyes. Keep jumping up and down to put the music on and off and to check for questions. If you have issues with your lungs or not, a meditation like that, done over and over again, can actually start to open you up. Just feeling and knowing that you are free to feel is a huge part of asthma. You are allowed to feel emotions, you're allowed to express yourself, you're allowed to be you. So what I'm going to encourage you as we wrap up the conversation on asthma is 2 or 3 things. One is to recognize nothing has to be permanent. Number 2, your body is super, super, super smart and can rebound back. Nothing at all is set in stone. This is all based on my emotions and my willingness to see and feel the bigness of who I am. I'm going to make a few statements here because I know a lot of people who watch this type of video that I put out on my TV channel are newer to this work. In this work, we believe that you are divinity. You are spirit. You are love. You are source consciousness. You are infinite intelligence. You are all of that. And that might sound really weird, especially if it's the first time you hear it. But the more often you hear it, the more you let it settle into your cells, the more you start to realize that as a human, you're allowed to have choices. So, try this out for a few weeks, or maybe even a few months. Settle into it. And maybe just start to notice if your asthma is flaring up, rather than paying attention to the perfumes and the dust and those kinds of things, let's start to pay attention to your emotions. How are you feeling a few days or a few weeks or even a few hours before the asthma attack? Have you been feeling more constricted, more afraid, more sad? And play with that. And this can take you a few weeks or for months or maybe a few years to shift. It doesn't matter. In the medical model, nothing wrong with that. Asthma is a one-way road. In this model, there's 2 ways. So it might take you some time, it might take you some practice, but that's why we're in this together. So thank you for joining me. It doesn't look like there's any questions, but thank you for joining me. I so always appreciate those who watch live or watch the recording. This video will be on YouTube in a few days, so you can rewatch it there, send your friends to watch it, because a lot of people think asthma is a curse and it's a one-way road. But when you open up the emotional, metaphysical, spiritual aspects, it can be a huge gift. Got it? So, until next week, I hope you have a fabulous week, and we will be back next week. Ciao!